You must be listening carefully to all these videos. You must be doing your written work. You must be doing your assignments. In today's lesson also, I will explain the chapter as Neeta ma'am did in the first lesson. I will give you some questions which you should note down, and you will have to maintain a copy. If just now you don't have a fair copy, don't bother. Use last year's copy, last year's social science copy. If you don't have that copy also, or that copy is finished, then use Pages. Write down the questions and the answers which I will be telling you side by side, and then staple them. When the school will reopen, then when you will purchase a new copy, paste these pages in your fair copy. Okay. Now let us revise a little bit what you did in lesson 1. In lesson 1, you studied about Belgium little bit, isn't it? In Belgium, the powers of the central government were reduced, and these powers were given to the regional government. Now, let me tell you in very brief about what is central government, what is regional government. Let us take up our country, India. As you all know, India is a very vast country, and India is governed by one central government. The head is the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Now, the whole country is divided into states, you know that. The whole country is divided into states, and each state has its own state government. Okay, so now this one central government is governed by the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers, and the central government takes care obviously of the whole country, and further the whole country is divided into different units, different regions you can say, or different states, and each state is governed by its own state government. So in Belgium, the powers of the central government were reduced, and these powers were given to the regional governments. But these powers could be taken away by the central government. Now, this is a very important difference. In Belgium, although the central government powers were a little bit reduced and these powers were given to the regional governments, but these powers which were given to the regional governments could be taken away by the central government. But later on, in 1993, these regional governments were given constitutional powers, and they were no longer dependent on the central government. Now, I will go into the detail about how India is governed, how different units govern the whole country. We will do in this chapter only, but a little bit later. So these regional governments were given constitutional powers, and they were no longer dependent on the central government now. Belgium thus shifted from unitary to federal government. This you must remember, children, because this line can be asked in the form of 1 mark question in your exam also. Belgium shifted from unitary form of government to federal form of government. That means the central government now could not take away the powers of the regional governments. The central government had its own power, but the regional governments were also given their separate powers, which could not now be taken by the central government. So now Belgium shifted from unitary system of governance to federal form of government, whereas Sri Lanka continues to have unitary government, where national government has all the powers. National government, or you can say the central government in Sri Lanka follows unitary form of government, where the national government has all the powers. This is the basic difference between Belgium and Sri Lanka. Now the question arises, what is federalism? As you have seen, the name of the chapter itself is federalism. So first thing we should know is, what is federalism? Federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority and various constituent units of the country. I am repeating, you will have to write this definition, children, in the copy. The question will be, what is federalism? And the answer to this question is, it is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. Now, let me explain what is the meaning of this definition. As I told you, India is a very vast country, and the vastness is so much that one central government cannot keep a check on the governance of the whole country, and the country might not run so smoothly. So for a smooth and effective administration of the country, for smooth and effective governance of the country, the whole country is divided into states. Each state has its own government. Each state has its own chief minister and his council of ministers. So, no doubt, at the center, at the union level or at the central level, there is the prime minister and his council of ministers to look into all the important matters which are of national concern, which affect the whole nation. But for effective administration, the whole country is divided into states, and each state has its own system of governance. They have their own ministry, the state level ministers, the chief minister, his council of ministers, and they look into the affairs of the state. Now, one important thing in India is that the state governments are free to govern the state according to their own policies. They are not all the time dictated terms by the central government. The central government cannot interfere in all matters of the state all the time. The state has autonomy or freedom to govern the to govern the state according to the policies made by the chief minister and the council of ministers. Now, I am giving you an example from day-to-day life. You are very much aware of the coronavirus, which has formed and taken the shape of an epidemic, and it is affecting so many lives. You must have seen that lockdown period is going on. Now, before the Prime Minister had announced a lockdown for the whole country for the second time, some of the state governments, after seeing that in their particular state this coronavirus is spreading very rapidly, they had announced a lockdown in their state a little before the Prime Minister did for the whole country for the second time. This shows that the state government is free to decide matters. They don't have to all the time ask the Prime Minister or the central government regarding some of the important issues which are affecting his or her state. The chief minister and the ministers, other ministers of state, they can take necessary steps seeing the situation in their particular state. So now let us come back to federalism. What is federalism? It is a system of government in which power is divided between the central authority, that means the central government or the union government we can say, and various constituent units of the country. Constituent units means different states of the country. Now, generally, federation has two levels of government. There are two levels of government, as I am repeatedly saying, the central government and the state governments. The central government is the government for the whole country, and the governments at different levels or provinces or states is called the state government. The central government, I am repeating, is for the whole country, and the state governments look into the matters of their own state. Another important thing here is that these levels of government enjoy the power independent of each other. As I just told you a few minutes back, that these levels of government, the governments which are formed for all these different states in the country, these levels of government, whether it is the union government or the state government, they enjoy their own autonomy, they enjoy their own freedom. The central government does not interfere in the matters of the state. This is a very important point as far as India is concerned. The central government or the union government does not interfere in the matters of the state. They have their own freedom, they can decide their own matters, they can take effective steps, whatever they want to do to improve the administration of their own state, to improve the law and order of their state, etc. They are free to do it. They are not all the time dictated terms by the central government. Now, what is the difference between unitary form of government and federal form of government? I hope children you are following. We will summarize quickly in the end of today's class. Just now listen carefully and keep on reading things. Children, I advise you, when this class will get over, then you must have downloaded the NCERT textbooks by now, I am sure, because so many classes have already been conducted. Please read this whole chapter thoroughly, line by line, and very slowly and carefully. And I am very sure if you will read carefully, and just now you are listening to me carefully, you will understand everything. Okay, keep revising everything, keep on reading the chapters again and again, because now children you are in class 9, and in class 9 you will have to read the chapters more than once. You will have to repeatedly read the chapters so that you retain all important points in the lesson. Now let us take up the difference between federal government and unitary form of government. In unitary system of government, there is only one government, or the sub-units are under the central government. Just now in the starting of the lesson I told you about unitary form of government. I am repeating what is unitary form of government. In unitary system or unitary form of government, either there is only one government or the sub-units are under the central government. Either there is only one government, that is, it can be a central government, or the sub-units are under the central government. The central government can pass orders to the provincial or local government. The central government, mind you, listen carefully children. In unitary form of government, there can be either only the central government or the sub-units. Sub-units like the states are under the central government, and the central government can pass orders to the provincial or local governments. But there's a vast difference in the federal form of government. As I told you, in federal government, the central government cannot order the state government to do something. The central government cannot pass order to the state government to do something. The state government has its own powers and it is not answerable to the central government. This is a very important difference between unitary form of government and federal form of government. I am repeating this difference because this is very, very important. In unitary form of government, either there is only one central government or the sub-units are under the central government, and the central government can pass orders to the provincial or local governments. But in federal form of government, the central government or the union government cannot order the state governments to do something. The state government has its own powers and it is not answerable to the central government. So please remember this basic difference. It is going to help you. Some questions can also be asked in the exam in the short answer type, that what is the difference between unitary form of government and federal form of government. So this is what you are going to write. Now let us move further and I am reading some of the important points which you people must later on read again and try to memorize also. Let us look at some of the key features of federalism. There are two or more levels of government. Two or more levels of government. Like if you take two levels of government, then in India there are two levels of government, the union government and the state governments. The third level of government, if you all know, is the panchayats at the village level. If you remember Panchayati Raj, you have heard of Panchayati Raj, you have heard of village panchayats, you have heard of Sarpanch. I am sure you have done all these basic things in your classes 6th, 7th and 8th sometime or the other. So earlier there were only two forms of government, two divisions in the government, the union government and the state governments. But later on, we will do in this chapter also, later on the need arose that in villages there should be a separate system of governance. I will tell you later on why this need arose. So this third form of government came, which was known as the Panchayat or Panchayati Raj. So the first point is there are two or more levels of government. They are called as the tiers of government also. Different tiers of government govern the same citizens. It is but natural, whether it is the central government or it is the state government. The citizens of the country are the same. Different tiers of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation and administration. Now what is jurisdiction? Jurisdiction is that area in which someone has legal authority, that area over which a person or a body, governing body has legal authority. So in this point we have read that different tiers of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction, own area of governance in specific matters of legislation, that is in matters of making rules, taxation and administration. The jurisdictions of the respective levels or tiers of government are specified in the Constitution. That means each level of government, whether it is the union government or the state government or government at the village level, each tier of government has to do its administration according to the guidelines laid down in the Constitution of India. They cannot do anything on their own. They have to follow the Constitution. So the existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. That means whatever they do to administer their area, whatever they do to govern their area, those guidelines, those set of rules and regulations have been guaranteed by the Constitution. They cannot go against the Constitution. The fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Now this is again a very important point, children. The fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Unilaterally means any one form of government, any one division of the government cannot change the provisions of the Constitution. Like for example, if any state government feels that a particular set of rules which are there in the Constitution are not up to the mark, they don't like it. Now it is not permitted that they can change the set of rules in the Constitution if it does not suit them or their particular state. The fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Such changes require the consent of both levels of government. So if any state government feels that some amendment is required, some changes are required, they will have to follow the advices of the central government also. They will have to take advice from the central government also. They cannot decide matters on their own. Courts have the power to interpret the Constitution and the powers of different levels of government. Now, there should be somebody who can check that the state governments are following the set of rules or the following the guidelines of the constitution properly. They are not going against the constitution. So who will put a check on them? The courts will put a check. The Supreme Court, the high courts, all these will keep a check that the governments who are governing their own areas of governance, who are governing their own jurisdiction, they are following the guidelines of the constitution. They are not doing anything against the constitution. The courts checks their functioning. The courts have the power to interpret the constitution and powers of different levels of the government. The highest court acts as an umpire if disputes arise between different levels of government in the exercise of their respective powers. So if there is any kind of dispute between the central and the state governments, then who is going to finally decide the matter? The Supreme Court. Because Supreme Court is the highest level of authority as far as justice is concerned. Supreme Court is the highest authority who can impart justice in the country. So the matters are decided by the Supreme Court, that is the highest court. The highest court acts as an umpire if disputes arise in different levels of government in exercise of their respective powers. Sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure financial autonomy. That financial autonomy means freedom as far as money matters are concerned, because every state requires a lot of money for smooth functioning, for smooth administration. So what kind of sources of revenue they will have to implement, or they will have to put, what taxes they will take from the citizens, what sources of income they will decide, all these are clearly specified as far as their financial autonomy is concerned. I am reading this again. Sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure financial autonomy. That means at the central level, the sources are different. At the state level, the sources of revenue are different. So different sources of revenue are decided according to the different levels of government. Now, last point is the federal system thus has dual objectives. It has two objectives: to safeguard and promote the unity of the country, and while at the same time accommodate regional diversity. The federal system has dual objectives: to safeguard and promote the unity of the country. Now here unity of the country is very important, because when we see that in federal form of government, the whole country is divided into different states, and each state has its own government. Each state has been given full freedom to govern the state according to their set of rules and regulations, according to their laws, etc. Now when we are dividing the states, we are just dividing the state so that the state can be run smoothly. We are not dividing the citizens of the state. That means we are not dividing the unity of our country. We are only dividing the whole country into different states or different union territories, so that each state can have smooth governance, because they will have to look into only a specified area. So governing their area is going to be easier, and the country in this way can be run smoothly. But here, unity of the country, unity of the citizens should not be divided under any circumstances. To safeguard and promote the unity of the country while at the same time accommodate regional diversity. Regional diversity, that means each region has its own diverse culture, different people living there, people speaking different languages, people wearing different kinds of clothes, people who are following different customs and traditions, they are celebrating different festivals. So these regional diversities should be accommodated so that people of different caste, creed and color living in that state live in unity and in with the spirit of brotherhood, unity in diversity, we can say. Because if you see your own state, Uttar Pradesh, it is not that only the Hindus are living here, only Muslims are living here, or only the Christians or the Parsis are living here. People of all caste, creed, and color live in all the states of the country. So, regional diversity should also be kept in mind, and at the same time, unity of the country should be safeguarded. These two objectives are very important in federalism. Now, children, another important thing which I want you to write in your copies is two questions. I am reading out firstly the headings, then I am reading out what are the subheadings. Don't try to write just now, just first listen, and later on I will tell you what you should write. Types of federations. Types of federations is the new heading now. What do you mean by, this is the first question. You can see your video again later on and note down these questions and answers in your copies. What do you mean by coming together federations? What do you mean by coming together federations? Now, coming together federations. First, try to understand what is the meaning of this new term. It is new for you, so please pay attention. Independent states come together on their own to form a bigger unit. Independent states come together on their own to form bigger units. This is called coming together federations. So you will write the question, what do you mean by coming together federations? And the answer will be, when independent states come together on their own to form a bigger unit, it is called coming together federations. Please note down the examples also in this answer, because examples are very, very important. They are asked as separate questions in the exam, 1 mark question in the exam. The examples are the USA, that means in USA we have coming together federations, then Switzerland, third example is Australia. First is USA, second is Switzerland, third is Australia. Now I will explain what is the meaning of this definition, coming together federations. Independent states come together on their own to form a bigger unit. That means small states, independent states, small states join hands together and they form a bigger unit. They form a bigger organization or a bigger unit. This is called as coming together federations, and this type of coming together federation is found in the USA, Switzerland and Australia. Now, here you must keep in mind that constituent states have equal powers and are strong as compared to the federal government. Constituent states have equal powers. That means these small states which are there in coming together federations, they have equal powers and are strong as compared to the federal government. In federal government, what happens? The central government has separate powers, the state government has separate powers, and both do not interfere in each other's matters. But this is not the case in coming together federations. They are strong. The constituent states are strong enough as far as we can compare the federal government. You don't have to write this, children. The definition ended with the examples. I am quickly repeating the definition again. Coming together federations. It means independent states come together on their own to form a bigger unit. Example is USA, Switzerland and Australia. Now the second, holding together federations. This is another type, holding together federations. The question will be, what do you mean by holding together federations? Now listen to the answer. A large country decides to divide its parts between constituent states and national government. Listen again. I am explaining. Later on I will tell you how you will write in the answer. A large country decides to divide its parts between constituent states and national government. Now, if you are paying attention to what I have taught you today or what I taught you a few minutes back, immediately you will come to know the example of this type of federation. If you have guessed India, you are perfectly right. India is an example of holding together federations. Why? Listen to the definition again, you will come to know. A large country, like in our country, India, a large country decides to divide its parts between constituent states and national government. Between constituent states, that is the different states of the country, and the national government. This happens in our country also. Our country is a very vast country, and the national government or the central government or the union government, whatever you call, the union government has divided its parts between the different constituent units. The parts are divided between the central government and the state governments. So this is the example of holding together federations. Now how you will write the question and the answer? Listen again. What do you mean by holding together federations? This is going to be your question. The answer will be, holding together federations is one where a large country decides to divide its parts between constituent states and the national government. Example is India, Spain and Belgium. India, Spain and Belgium. Learn these three examples also. As I told you earlier, examples are asked in the form of separate questions in the exam, so don't ignore the examples. So in holding together federations, the central government is more powerful as compared to the state.